Secrets, if you really look at yourself, you would be speechless. What happened to being doctors and teachers? What happened to being your brother's keeper? Nowadays, kids more worried about
Don't let no one get you down. Keep moving on higher ground. Keep flying until you are the king of the hill. No force of nature can break your will to self-motivate. She said this face that you see is destined for history.
Yo, what is poppin'? Before the video starts, I just want to let you all know that I give readings just like the ones that you see every Monday on my channel. I give on point Orisha Tarot card readings for singles and also for couples. I also do natal chart consultations. My Everything is Everything reading is by far my bestseller. If you want to check out any of these services, please visit my website at www.bandclaptv.com. So again, if you want to check these things out, go to my website, www.bandclaptv.com. All right, yo, what is poppin'? It's the top of the week, so you already know what time it is. It's your boy, Mr.BandClap, at it again with another on point Orisha Tarot forecast spread. And this is going to be for the week of Monday, May the 25th through Sunday, May the 31st of 2026. So I decided to revisit this format again because I know I've been doing a bunch of live streams, but I want to see how good this recorded stream is going to do, this recorded video. The reason why is because there were some things about my account that I just found out. I've been around here trying to figure out why is it that a lot of my followers and a lot of my subscribers don't see my content when I post it on YouTube. And this has been going on since like 2022, 2023, around that time. Because around that time, my channel got hacked. And it was like these crypto people that hacked my account. So I ended up getting my account back, but it was never the same. So I'm going into these options and going into different things. And I ended up coming across this page that talks about tags and different things like that when it comes to what type of keywords would someone need to type in order to find your content. Now, this is something that I've never really looked at. I think the last time I looked at this was like 2016, 2017, when I was just finding out about YouTube. So when I clicked it and I saw all of these keywords that was still put on my channel, and all of these keywords had to do with crypto, like Ethereum, Bitcoin, like all that type of stuff. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, wow. So this is the reason why when you type in my name or when you type the different content that I do, you don't even find it, because even though my channel is back to normal, there's still some settings behind the scenes that was still linked to what my channel was linked to when it was hacked. So I don't know if this is gonna 100% fix everything, but I just want to use this as a test so I can see how it's gonna go. But one thing that I've been noticing planetarily, because I want to go into a little bit of astrology, is that there's a lot of that right now. Everything has not been what it seems for a long time, and sometimes it takes some digging. You know, you trying to figure out what's going on, you trying to figure out why am I going through the same issue or whatever, and then you do some digging and you find out some truth that you never would have found out, you never would have known. It would have always been there festering around. You never would have known about it until you decided to go within and do that deep research, like how I did for my YouTube channel. So before I get started, I want to go ahead and show a respect and a appreciation and honor for all of the fallen soldiers who risked their life for this country. I want to say I thank you for your service. To all of those who went out into the military and they went to fight for this country, some of them didn't come back, but some of them lost limbs. Some of them have different psychological issues and mental issues because of the things that they had to go through in that military. So I want to send my honor and my respect to them. And This is also why I named this particular forecast this, because this is going to be something that a lot of us right now are going to be thinking about in one way or another in a retrospective type of manner. Some of us are going to be voicing these frustrations outwardly because, we're in Gemini. And we got a lot on our mind right now. We got a lot on our mind. And we can see that with the sun. The sun is in Gemini and it is in that 8th house. So a lot of commotion going on in the airways right now. A lot of commotion that's going on. A lot of people got things to say. A lot of people got grievances that they want to get off their chest. And see, when I think about this Gemini in the 8th house, it reminds me a lot of Legba. When I look at this natal chart, it almost reminds me of a journey of a newly old Legba who is a veteran. He used to be a part of the Warriors back in his younger days. And not only is this a story of his life and how he ended up being known for what he ended up being known for, at the end of his retrospection, this still poses the same question. Who fights for your world when you sacrifice your life to fight for theirs? So when we look at the moon placement right now, when you see Libra in the 12th house, that screams Akashic Records. That screams deep introspection with a emphasis on connecting the dots. And in that process, since Aquarius is in the 4th house, is going to give you that insight on what made you stand out from everybody else. And I'm talking about from young, from being a kid, you stood out. In your older age, this is also going to raise some reflective questions about the maturity of your mind, which has a lot to do with the apparent. And this deals a lot with obsessive overthinking or deep-seated fear of being intellectually dominated, gaslit, or silenced by others. And it kind of takes away that lighthearted energy that Gemini is used to having. But instead, now you see yourself, you're in this situation to where nowadays you're not as lighthearted as you used to be. Your awareness is more of on a survival level because you've been in such a violent environment growing up, coming up. So now, as an adult, now you're in a situation to where the conversations that you have with people, it's not just small talk. You're actually doing psychological evaluations, trying to figure out what makes people tick, so that when you feel threatened or vulnerable in an intimate situation with said person, you might use these sharp verbal skills to completely dissect someone's psychological flaws, using things that was once told to you in privacy. Now you're using these things as a shield and a weapon. Now, in straight up true Gemini fashion, just like how we got 2 moons that's going on this month, we also have 2 ascendants. So what this is telling me is that this is going to be a specific characters are going to be going on. So this is talking about a resulting personality disposition of 2 different versions of Legba, 2 different types of veterans and their specific dispositions. And in this respect, this can also talk about the ascendant being what the media or what the world at large thinks about this version of Legba. And then when we look at the East Point, which is looked at as the second ascendant, which is also in the same sign of Scorpio, this can also be looked at as what your family and people the closest to you, the way they looked at your personality, the way they analyzed who you are. So on an outer level, this ascendant in Scorpio, it kind of talks about what the world at large tells you that this is what you end up turning into and transforming into once you get into the military. So this talks about someone who comes off as secretive but powerful, domineering, assertive, charismatic, magnetic, daring, clear-sighted, creative, passionate, loyal, vigorous, preserving, ambitious, shrewd, possessive, sexual, proud, intense, and competitive. This is what the world says about you out loud. But in your journey to get there, in that transformation, some other people may say that You came off as aggressive, destructive, stubborn, anxious, tyrannical, perverse, sadistic, violent, complex, critical, nasty, jealous, vulnerable, disassembling, and self-centered. When we look at the degree that it's in, this also gives an even deeper level of your personality. And this talks about someone who, on a deeper level, they're extremist, reckless, and destructive. They may have become an instrument of hatred, very self-hating, those type of things, self-hating, self-loathing deep down. I always talk about a Scorpio moon that doesn't love herself is dead inside. And it don't matter how beautiful they are on the outside, nothing that you are going to be able to do to make that person see a beauty or a love or a soul essence within them if they can't see it themselves. This degree describes all sorts of misfortunes brought out by natural disasters or political upheavals. Although one works hard, their efforts remain unproductive because projects are not well prepared. This degree warns against possible injury caused by fire and affecting the legs. This is definitely Army coded, military coded, warrior coded. Now, when we look at this East Point, because this is going to kind of be what your loved ones and stuff like that, the way they think about you, the way they see you, the things that they're going to say about your personality at your funeral, pretty much. So this talks about someone who is benevolent, altruistic, and tactful. Life is dedicated to the alleviation of other people's suffering. This degree sometimes describes a patron who protects artists or funds philanthropic organizations. This talks about what really lies beneath is someone who has a generous character about them, whether they're motivated by self-interest or, they have a genuine or universal type of purpose that they feel like they have. So again, this is talking about someone who was able to do all the right things for other people, but in turn, they had to suppress a lot of themselves. They had to suppress a lot about who they are deeply. They had to negate a lot of those shadow work things that you go through at a young age so you can learn about who you are. So when it comes to the identity of this particular person, that's why it comes off as very mysterious, because it really is. This person could be a well-decorated member of the military or a highly political status or something like that. But deep down, this person was never able to go on a self journey to learn about who they really are. And now they're at that age to where with the midheaven in Leo, this is supposed to represent them having a second chance at life, being able to enjoy themselves and do things to free their heart and free their mind and be in that whimsical type of attitude, having the pleasures and love and creations, everything that life has to offer when it comes to children and arts and all of that. But instead, this midheaven in Leo represents this particular Legba's wife or daughter coming out and doing a very beautiful eulogy about this particular version of Legba and reminding people of all of the sacrifices that Legba had to make for everybody else in spite of their own well-being. And this is evident when we look at the Chiron placement, which is in Aries in the 7th house. And Chiron in Aries is one of those wounds that's hard to heal because every time that wound is triggered, it's like a fresh burn. It feels like a fresh burn. So you have one version of Legba, one version of the veteran warrior, and they found themselves unconsciously attracting partners who were highly aggressive, demanding, or self-centered. And this version of Legba ended up taking the role as a ultimate fixer, trying to heal that partner's identity crisis while ignoring their own. This is speaking on someone who didn't really have a identity when it came to who they are in the relationship. So they wasn't able to create the right boundaries that they were supposed to create in order to keep that relationship balanced. So this led to someone who has to completely erase their own desires just to keep the peace, just to keep someone around. And it's like, who wants to have a relationship like that? Now, when we talk about the Legba, the warrior, the veteran soldier who represents the East Point, this is talking about a very lucky Legba who found a goddess like Basset. And she ended up healing him and turned him into a wounded healer that can go out and speak and help youth and other people in his position so they can have that balance within as well. And when you look up all of the spiritual properties of the goddess Bastet, and we look at the world today and everything that we're going through in this world, especially with our men and women and relationships and all that, Bastet is a very, very prevalent and important energy right now, whether you're a man or a woman. As you can see, Lilith is in Scorpio in the second house. And this is talking about primary, raw, shadow, unspoken desires when we're talking about financial independence, self-worth, control, and material security. So in relationships, intense power struggles over self-worth and all of that, again, this right here is talking about the Legba that represents the Scorpio ascendant. His identity is with whatever organization that he initiated himself into. And outside of that, he don't have no identity like that. He don't really know who he is. So how would he be able to navigate a multidimensional being like a woman? I mean, it ends up being a tug of war over control. That's what that Lilith represents. But when we talk about that East Point Legba, the one that represents someone who is very philanthropic and generous, it's because the woman that he ended up settling down with represented a beautiful mirror reflection of all of those positive qualities that were lying dormant, all of those mysterious things about himself that he either disregarded because of his upbringing or he just wasn't able to explore those things about himself. And when we look at this seventh house in Taurus, it's talking about that valuable relationship, that valuable Proverbs 31 type of woman, which leaves this man feeling like Obatala, feeling like God. Every time he's around this woman and she's motivating him and reminding him of all of the amazing things that he's done in his life, it makes him feel like that Obatala Sagittarian type of energy, because Sagittarius is in the second house. So this is talking about valuing the God in you, a woman who values the God in you, someone who's a Taurus, that seventh house Taurus, along with that second house Sagittarius, that's someone who they value the God in you. And I can't lie, that's something that's very hard to find nowadays, because it all starts with this 11th house in Virgo. And when we talk about these two versions of the veteran, these two versions of the Legba, which is the politician, think about all the things that Legba represents: the politician, the messenger, the artist who deals with words, the author, all of these type of people. This 11th house in Virgo, connecting to the Eshu energy, connecting to what's going to increase your health, increase your vitality, that's going to help you to be able to work at your most optimum level. When we talk about the Legba who represented the Scorpio ascendant, he sacrificed the baby Eshu energy for the Aries Shango energy. And this talks about the solo warrior routine, likely to experience bursts of immense hyper-focused productivity followed by periods of complete crash and burn. Someone who was taught to prefer. And these things are cool when you're young, but once you get older, that Aries in the sixth house, it catches up with you. And that's where that PTSD come from on a psychological, on a physical level. This leads to high stress levels the older you get, things like insomnia, physical inflammation, and headaches, among other things. So the Legba who represents that Scorpio ascendant, they pretty much had to sacrifice what the baby Eshu would have wanted you to do, which is working with other people who are also on that same tip about health and wealth, staying in tune with your inner child. That's impossible. Stuff like that is impossible. This is the stuff that you give up so that you can become a warrior, so that you can become, especially in these type of militaries that we have in this country. One of the other two things that you give up is that Jupiter placement and that Venus placement. Because when you're in these different organizations, the organization pretty much is going to dictate how high you go. And in order for you to be able to stay in that organization, your love or your Venus placement has to be also set on that organization. And that's the only way that you're going to be able to expand. Now, with the Scorpio Ascendant, Legba, Soldier Warrior, you turn into Mike Tyson. Y'all remember that there was like this interview with Mike Tyson, and he had all of his achievements and he had all of his belts and all the things that he's ever won spread out on his table. And I remember the interviewer asking Mike Tyson, what he thought about all of these things, and does he feel proud and all of that. And with a straight face, Mike was like, nah, this stuff don't mean nothing to me, And this is the reality that the Scorpio Ascendant Legba has. You got all of these medals and you got all of this valor and all of this stuff, and you're still in a predicament even lower than someone who didn't even do half of what you had to do. And again, with this Mercury being in Gemini right now, this is what we're going to be talking about on a massive level. You're really going to see the people who their job pretty much defined them. Their job, the organization that they became a part of, they became so much of a drone and a zombie to that particular organization, it turned them into a ambitious, shrewd, and watchful character. Someone that you got to keep your eyes on. Someone who their cleverness is wasted in dubious business or insecure love relationships. Someone who they're spurred by the need to wield power, and one obtains a position of authority for better or for worse, depending on the general trend. So it's like somebody who they're really not the person spiritually and emotionally fit for this job, but because they have certain valor and certain things, they automatically get pushed up. And there's a lot of politicians right now that we can say that particular jacket belongs to. So I can do a lot of there's a lot that I can go talking about this, but I want to go ahead and get into the reading right now. So if you all like the way I break down these natal charts and you would like your own natal chart reading, go to my website, www.bandclaptv.com, and you can also get on point or esoteric spreads done for you as well. Just click on my services tab on my website and it'll lead you to all of those things. All right, so this spread that you see in front of you, this is a 7-day spread. As you can see, you may not go through these things on a particular day, but it's just something for you to be cognizant about during this week. So since we're in Gemini, I had to pull 2 cards from the Santa Muerte Oracle deck. And this is a very, very interesting 2 cards that came out. So on an outer level for the overall, because when I do the cards from the Santa Muerte deck, this is talking about the overall message for this week. So on an outer level, we're going to be focusing on the primordial. Right now, the veil is very thin. You should be doing those Akashic record readings so you can learn more about who you are, where you're from, where you're really, really from. This one card, it's talking about darkness, because that's what happens when you close your eyes, and when you go within, that darkness starts to, turn into a infinite, formless void of potential energy and latency, So this talks about take a moment's pause, meditation, or study, as you need to understand what form to give your energy and where to apply it. So that's what we're going to be doing on a outer level. And on a inner level, we have the 6 card, and that's talking about order. So on the outer level, we're going to be getting ourselves in order, because on a inner level, we're going to be, going on that inner journey so we can make sure that we're applying our energy, we're applying ourselves the right type of way. So that's very important. And this 6 card that talks about order, this is saying learn to organize your ideas, but also have the courage to abandon them if necessary, to not remain trapped in them. So that's very important. That's why I'm doing this particular format, because I want to be a little bit more organized, even though it's getting harder and harder for me to do this, but I just want to give this a shot so I can see, is it going to do anything different to my algorithm now? Well, that's the overall, and let's see what Monday has for us. So this is Monday, a lot of emotional energy that's going on right now. And as you can see, Oshunmare is being exposed. The snakes in the grass are being exposed. Now, On another level, this is also talking about the kundalini of the planet is rising. You know, I can truly say for myself, like, it's been a while since I've drunk an energy drink, which is weird. Like I normally have to drink them a lot, just so I can have energy. But it's like nowadays, I'm just super hyper for no reason. And I have to find ways to be able to exert that energy, which is good because I have my animation that I'm still working on. You know, I have these videos that I can do. I got my music, different talents that I can do to be able to keep that kundalini energy moved around, because that's what Oshunare represents. We're headed towards the summertime, so that 8 of fire, you know, there's still a lot of things that is still yet to be exposed. So shout out to my homegirl Queen A. We was talking about this earlier, and she was talking about, yeah, like it's crazy how, you know, the files have came out and all that stuff, and it don't seem like it caused an uproar like you know, like we all thought that it was going to be. And my whole thing is, it's like, yeah, because there's still some things that still is being still kept under wraps, that haven't been fully exposed yet. But see, also when I look at this 8 of fire, this can, for some people out there, this can also be someone waiting on money, you know, someone waiting to be noticed for something. This is someone that's waiting for recognition. This is someone who, judging by this 3 of fire, that's reversed. This particular person, this is like a discharge. Like this is someone who's been separated from all the support and all of the light that they once had. But when you look at this 6 of earth, it can be a warning for some people out there. If you know that your wealth and everything that you know that you accomplished, it was a community effort. You know, it was a effort that a lot of people had to sacrifice and all of that, so they can help you to get to that point. This 6 of earth says, understand that you have won because you have received from powerful ones who offered you support and equitability. Now, if this is reversed, like how you see it on here, it's reversed. This is talking about someone who became stubborn. They became fraudulent. They became corrupted by this support, by this financial support. And this led to things like blackmailing and extortion. Now, when we're talking about this message from fire, this is a message saying that anybody can change. You know, just because you lost favor, just because you lost favor or something like that, even though, you know, maybe in a military sense, I don't know too much about that, but I do got family in the military. I don't know if you do something in the military that requires a dishonorable discharge. You know, I don't know if there's some type of apology or something that you can do so that you can re-enlist or whatever. I don't know too much about that. I don't even know if that's even possible. But on a holistic level, it's saying that you can always change and you can always regain that favor, because it says, do not lose hope if your energy seems to disappear. Go back to the path that was apparently lost. Find strength in your spirit team, in your soul family. Listen to their advice and pay much attention to their suggestions. So that's what leads to the 3 cards at the top, which talks about emotional healing, which leads to spiritual ascension. So that's what some of us are going to be looking into for Monday. So let's see what Tuesday has for us. So Tuesday talks about how all things work together for our good. And this is something that we can learn from our veterans. You know, we can learn that from our, from our soldiers and people who in their own way have done things to help this country, to help their community around them and things like that. When we look at this 8 card, the 8 of earth, you know, the sun is in Gemini and it is in the 8th house right now. So, this is a message for somebody out there. It don't matter what type of path you got. It don't matter if you joined the military or you joined the police force. It don't matter if you joined the student government at your college, or if you joined the, you're trying to get into politics as far as like with your state, or if you're trying to get, you're trying to be a part of the Senate or the House of Representatives, all these type of things. All of these paths come with their own hardships. Nothing is easy, especially for the path of the warrior, the path of the soldier. Nothing is easy. Everything is hard work, Ogun, heavy Ogun type of energy, When we talk about the heavily valored retired warrior, that's Ogun. That's him all day. Ogun represents law enforcement. He represents the military. He even represents certain branches of government that is very militaristic. But he can also represent the common blue collar worker who does a lot of things that that we take for granted. Ogun can represent the lumberjack. He can represent the garbage man. He can represent the janitor sometimes. Sometimes he's the janitor, the ones who fix things in the school. The HVAC technician, those type of things. The building engineer. That's what we used to call them back in the day. But this 8 of Earth talks about through learning, you will be able to use your potential and enjoy everything that you have obtained. And with this 9 of Fire, this talks about certain situations that you may go through to where you may feel like your ancestors aren't there. You may feel like that you're praying and your prayers aren't being answered. But then when we look at the Baba Orisha card, there's 2 ways that you can interpret this. The one way I like to interpret it is that meme of the guy that was walking with Jesus on the beach or something like that, and first there was 4 footprints along the path, and then it got to a point where there was only 2 footprints, and he asked him, what happened? What happened during that time? And then he was like, because it was during this time that I had to carry you. So it's talking about never forget who you are. Never forget the personal power that you have. That's what that 8th house, that's what that energy is about. The Baba Orisha, this represents what all of those hardships turned you into. A virtuous, prudent, and just man or woman. Someone who gives wise counsel, making wise decisions with a deep emotive psychology that will go deep inside of their mind and their heart. And this is going to give you full protection against evil. This person is very peaceful spiritually and a very measured person. So, this is what all of those hardships along your path is going to turn you into. And this is, some of the things that you're going to learn about on Tuesday. So let's see what Wednesday has for us. So when we look at Wednesday, this is kind of something that the Scorpio ascendant Legba, soldier, this is one of the things that they had to learn in their older age, because that military organization, is very fraternal. It's all about the group. It's all about the group. It's all about doing what's best for the group. But what about when you're alone? What about when it's just you and you got to deal with the world and you don't have a sergeant by you? You don't have you don't have certain people that you used to have with you to help you get through those things while you were in the military. And this right here talks about a lot of the PTSD that messes up your 5th house. That house that leads to some of your greatest creative energy. Instead, that house is a egotistical, narcissistic prison, because you're always looking at, other people's success and all of that type of stuff. And you don't know who you are, so you don't even know to what extent that your true power is. So when we talk about, that particular version of Legba, this type of person, when they're older and they're out of the military and they live in regular life, this person has a deep sorrow over problems that they plan to solve. Bad luck with friends, lovers. These people suffer from broken marriages and relationships. Once they get out of that military with all of that structure, now they have a loss of values. But the Legba that represents the East Point, that messenger who never gave up hope, they never lost that connection with their inner child. And it just seems like these type of people always get out of the craziest situations. Like they can claw themselves out of the most perilous type of environments. These are your Legbas who have these elaborate stories about, different experiences that they was going through overseas and how they witnessed all of these different calamities and how they were able to come out of it and tell their story. When we talk about the Legba who represented that Scorpio ascendant, the 4 of water, for them, it led to even more dissatisfaction. Led into a the other D word that I don't know if I can say on here. Dissatisfaction, fatigue, lack of happiness because of material losses. So again, this is talking about heavy PTSD, with this particular version. And, when he ended up leaving that particular organization or finishing up with his service in the military, on a mental level, this person ended up being very hypersensitive, almost seeming numb to feelings, having a mental block, total incongruity, sickness, madness. Someone who apparently has this intelligence and this creativity, but the mental block keeps them from being able to use this for their benefit. But when we talk about that version of Legba who represent the East Point, this is someone who can reinvent themselves after any type of calamity situation. They just know how to reinvent themselves, and they do the shadow work, even if that means that they gotta disappear for a while. They know how to do that, come back on the scene, and now they represent the Sun card. They represent someone who went through so much hardship in their life, but when you look at the fire in their eyes, and when you look at their soul and that fire that comes from within, that's still raging within them, it gives you hope in the world. It gives you faith. And it gives you that outcast reversed energy that anybody can change. Anybody can make the right decision and go on a different path. So this day talks about no matter what type of emotional hardships that you find yourself in, with the right faith, you can always pull yourself out. With the right hope, you can wake up something within you that was asleep or dormant, which is that Four of Water reverse, which will to lead you into becoming someone that the youth wants to look at as a motivation. All right, so let's see what Thursday has for us. And that's very interesting that we got Shango here on Thursday. So if anybody knows that Tupac song, The Ballad of a Fallen Soldier, that's what this particular day is going to represent. So this Shango card represents judges, magistrates, justice in general, and the concept of justice as such: fairness, balance, and equality of conditions, administrative procedures, execution of contracts, bureaucracy, vouchers, documentation, papers in general, examinations, seminars, courses, and conventions. These are people who acted on their ideas or the idealization of thought and the status that is reached through the search for knowledge, something a master cannot teach, but he may indeed lead his disciples to reflect, to work with their minds with truth as their goal. And with this moon card, this talks about justice in spite of peril. When justice reigns in spite of peril and sadness and all of these type of things, when you're able to enact that Shango energy, even though your environment may represent the moon card, this leads to this Seven of Water reverse, which talks about looking for the solution in the right path and learning to be consistent with that. Understanding that humility leads to greatness, and only those who have a great spirit reach great goals. And even though sometimes his faith may have wavered inside, that's what the man card reverse represents. Even though sometimes he may not have always felt like his most powerful self, which is the Ace of Fire reverse, the one thing that he made sure that he never relented on was his duty. And with this Ace of Air, this talks about you have a duty to carry a message of peace, the result of which will be successful, reappraising your efforts and encompassing everything. Nothing should be left to chance, because nothing is accidental. It is the victory of love over human mediocrity, a triumph of the spirit, high artistic value and inspiration. So, these not only represents the fallen soldiers out there who need to be honored and stuff like that. This is also a message of motivation from a ancestral fallen soldier to you out there who may be going through your own battles, whether it's a mental battle, a physical battle, internal battle. It's all the same at the end of the day. All right. So let's see what Friday has for us. And I love the fact that Shango is on Thursday and then Eshu is on Friday. And this version of Eshu is so expressive about being unapologetically him. He doesn't really care about anything that the outside world has to say about him, because he knows that they don't run anything in his reality. Eshu can cut up in this world and be a trickster and do all these different things, because he understands something that we all used to know at one point in time, but we were tricked out of our positions. We understood that this world is not our home, and we all have inner worlds that we come from that we're going to end up going back to. And your job on earth is to become one with that so that heaven can be on earth. That's what that's about. And the couple card represents you understanding that. That's that Libra type of energy. And when we look at the SU card and the Salamander card, this talks about someone who is so unapologetically who they are that it's hard for them to adapt in a group. And that's what the Salamander cards represent. Sometimes it's hard for them to adapt into a group. And in the group, they may be looked at as psychologically ill or something like that, very misunderstood, which may lead to the Undies and Mermaids reverse and the Two of Fire reverse. And this is talking about higher ups not letting you get through certain doors. This is talking about gossip and higher ups trying to hold you back from getting into certain doors that you deserve. And this is why balance and knowing who you are, knowing what all representatives that you have inside of you that you can use to your benefit. See, the baby issue, which is the issue reverse, the reason why he's able to get through certain doors and different things like that is because he knows how to camouflage himself very, very well. He knows how to transform himself into something that you would consider a bum. And he can go and infiltrate in these different environments and stuff like that and come out with so much knowledge and so much information that he wasn't even supposed to get. It reminds you of the spook who sat by the door. And just me thinking about this is a very militaristic type of message. And right now, it's not about lowering yourself or compacting yourself so that you can fit within a group. It's more about you understanding who you are and becoming one with that and creating your own environment, creating your own world. And in that world, you're able to explore yourself in ways that you just can't in the outside world. Because every time Eshu becomes an adult in this world, he outgrows the world that he came in. So now we are on the weekend, baby. Let's see what Saturday has for us. So when we look at Saturday and we look at the two different ways that you can interpret this, when we talk about the Legba, the fallen soldier, or the veteran that represents the Scorpio ascendant, one thing that he learned in this world, nothing is promised but death and taxes. And that's what that Iku card, which looks like a Grim Reaper, and then the female Eshu card reverse, which is that Pambagira, that taxes you in order for you to have a good time with her. Now, when we talk about the Legba that represents the East Point, this is talking about in this fight that we're in this world, where we have to use the same weapons as our opponents, or even more powerful ones. We have to understand that our cleverness and our astuteness is going to be the only clear strategy that's going to be a efficient defense. Understanding that the struggle is going to be tiresome, but we can't give up, and we got to fight. We got to fight fairly. So, to the pure and healthy messenger that's seen a lot of people come and go, had a lot of celebrations, had a lot of funerals, seen some crazy things, and had to overcome it. When we look at this Iku and the Earth element card that is below it, these are the things every day or every few days or whenever you look in the mirror and check yourself. These three things that represent this Earth element are going to be things that you're going to always be changing about yourself. If you're serious about your spiritual journey, you're always going to be putting death to some of these things. When we talk about Taurus, you're going to be putting to death a lot of the things that you thought you valued. When we talk about Virgo, you're going to be constantly putting to death anything that doesn't serve your highest good, your highest health, that relationship with your inner child. You're always going to be cycling what works and what doesn't. And then when we talk about this Capricorn, this is something that you're always going to have to check about yourself, because this is like that ego of feeling like that it is your job to make other people stable. And again, if this is something that, you were in the military or something like that, you're used to doing that for other people. You being a part of these fraternal organizations, you're used to sacrificing for others and stuff like that. But now you got to go within and do it yourself. It could be kind of hard. It can be a little painful at times. And you also understand with this female issue reverse and the 3 of air right below it, not all pleasures are pleasures that you need to be associated with. Even though it may be fun, it may feel good for the moment, these are all things that lead to long-term consequences, like what this 3 of air said. Danger, separation, trouble, and obstacles. You will be an easy prey for your enemies. The shadow of doubt and jealousy will condemn you to a sad fate, and this leads to things like perversity and violence. There was this meme that I was watching on Instagram about this guy, and he was talking to this girl online, and it was like a long distance type of relationship. And so they ended up finally meeting up, and she got the hotel room, and it was super elaborate and all of that. But he was kind of nervous because he hadn't met her before in person. And so he walks into the hotel, and there's a lump on the other bed. And so she's like, "Oh, don't worry about that. That's my friend or whatever. Come on over here on this bed." And so the dude, you could tell he was a street dude. You could tell that this ain't his first time around the block. So he quickly walked out of there. He's like, "Nah, man, that's a setup. That's a setup. That's a dude. There's probably a dude in that bed. There's probably another dude in that bed. She trying to set me up." Now, just imagine if that particular guy was just super lustful, super poom hungry, and he just wanted to smash. That probably would have been his last day. Probably would have been his last day on this planet, So that's how this East Point Legba has been able to stay alive this long, because he was able to master the 2 of Earth. And the 2 of Earth, this talks about alternating between 2 places at the same time while maintaining a perfect and just balance. Paternal but strict character, easy to anger, but later transforming itself into something tender and kind. And perhaps because its nature allows, melancholic. And that's going to give you effectiveness in any given situation if you understand that principle. All right. So now we're on Sunday. So let's see what Sunday has for us. And as you can see, it don't even gotta be 2 or 3. Sunday is talking about seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things will be added unto you. That's what this Sunday represents, and the kingdom is within. The 2 of water reverse is talking about confusion. Different confusion that we're going through when it comes to things that we thought we valued. And then you got the 7 of earth above that. That's you physically searching for truth. This is you searching for a harvest that you was promised. And when you look at the 2 cards above, some people find God, which represents that Obatala energy. But the one thing that Obatala teaches is that even when you don't think that nobody is watching, your spirit team is always watching. They never left you. They never forsook you. That's a word. And Obatala teaches that everything has to be obtained through effort. That's the big thing that you can learn from both of these versions of Legba. You can learn this from all of the veterans, from all of the soldiers who gave us the service. You can learn this from your own father, your own grandfather, your own uncle. And if you're someone out there and you're fighting this good fight, no matter what it is, this is something that you have to bear in mind too. Everything has to be obtained through effort. Do not reject your spiritual soul family, spirit team demands for corporate requirements. Since dispersion and dissension may cause adverse effects, please bear this in mind. And if y'all can heed that message, you will be glad that you did. All right, so I appreciate everybody who came out and watched this. I know it's probably going to be late when this comes out, so forgive me for that. Again, if you would like to get a reading from me, www.bandclaptv.com. If you would like to donate to my animation, Eshu's World, it's going to be a very, very, very ambitious project. I'm very excited about it. And if you all want to see more episodes, go to my website for that. If you would like to support, there's also a support tab on there where you can do that as well. And until next time, peace. What's up, y'all? I hope y'all enjoyed that video. And if you stayed to the end, I appreciate you. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, I want to redirect you to my Instagram page. I don't promote my Instagram page a lot, but As my subscriber count and things like that rise due to things like shadow banning and stuff like that, I'm hearing that a lot of people aren't getting my notifications when I go live on YouTube and stuff like that. So for all things BandClap TV, my Instagram page and my story are going to have all of the notifications and things like that when it comes to when I'm going live, when I'm going, when I'm releasing videos, when I'm releasing content. Also on my Instagram page, if you're curious about my reviews for my readings and stuff like that, as you can see on my Instagram, I have a lot of different testimonials and stuff like that. For those who don't know of me as an artist, I also have videos of me performing and stuff like that. I'll be putting out more stuff like that very, very soon. So I'm just trying to get as many people right now to go ahead and follow me on Instagram. That is BandClap TV. And also my Facebook and Snapchat, BandClap TV as well. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. And like I always say, no matter what, you got to stay shining. You got to stay shining.